Well, we are having some technical difficulties. For whatever reason, our intros are not wanting to play in the recording. Apparently, we're having an issue with that. Yeah, I don't know what happened, so we will have to figure that out. Welcome to War of the Stars, everybody.
Welcome to War of the Stars. Just pretend that all that stuff happened.
Yes, we're. Oh man, that's really frustrating. Like I had it all queued up and technology, the bane of our existence.
I know, technology. Can't live
but isn't
with
it
it.
Convenient?
Yes.
I blame Obamacare.
Everybody does.
Has nothing to do with this, but
hey,
well, everybody out there will be glad to know. While I am in North Carolina, I only had to use 4 bath towels and 1 bed blanket to block the water coming in from my doors last night.
Were you guys
50
flooding?
years in this house. Yeah, had a little bit of flooding from Tropical Storm Chantal. What a lovely name. But yeah, we've been in this house 15 years. We never had any flooding like that. It's crazy. Our house is on a hill, a steep hill that flows down into a creek that feeds into a major river. So generally, whenever there's rain, we get a little erosion is our worst concern. We don't usually see pooling at the doors, but last night the French drains got a little bit overwhelmed.
How much did that river get overflowed, man? That's crazy.
5 beach towels and 1 blanket. had it cleaned up in about 30. I was going out there with a hose to start siphoning the water away from the door.
Wow!
But by the time I got the hose in the water level was already down below the level of the nozzles.
Well, first of all,
all's well that dries well.
Yeah.
Nice.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for holding down the fort while I was on vacation down in the Smoky Mountains. We stayed in a little town called Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Oh, sure.
Might have heard of it.
Pigeons.
Yeah, it is. Someone actually thought that that's where a little girl thought that's why it was called Pigeon Forge, because that's where pigeons were made.
Makes sense.
Follow the birds aren't real conspiracy theory.
I've heard of it. Yeah,
that's fun.
I
have a game I play. Speaking of that, I have a game I play whenever I go to like a museum or the zoo or anything. It's called World's Worst Docent. And I will say ludicrous things in a calm and studied manner to whoever's listening. Among them, seahorses give off a Wi-Fi signal. But nobody knows the password. My favorite, though, is I told a group of people that baby giraffes have a venomous stinger, which is present when they're first hatched, but it drops off after the first 2 years after their chitinous plates come in, and that helps them defend. But so the venomous stinger is a way that they defend themselves. So again, hatched, stinger, chitinous armor, and all of us are like, well, baby giraffes have a venomous stinger actually when they're first hatched. What?
So wait, venomous. So hold on. Are you saying that giraffes are essentially scorpions?
Well, I just like mismatching genres of animal.
Yeah.
But anyway, carry on. Pigeon Forge. Sorry.
Oh yeah. The town is pretty much. If you haven't been there, it's pretty much owned by Dolly Parton.
Everything should be.
It is. She's a national treasure. I'm not a country music fan, but I can listen to me some Dolly sing.
I would not say I enjoy her music, but I like her as a person.
She is an amazing.
We subscribe to the Dolly Parton Library. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
So we got from the time my daughter was 4 months old to the time she was 5. We got a book from Aunt Dolly every month.
Yeah. But it is if you haven't been there, if you want to visit, it is a tourist trap, and it is bumper to bumper traffic in both Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. So
did you get an old timey picture done? Because that is
we did not. We looked at we looked at it. We thought about it, and when we saw that the coupon was like, I can't remember what the coupon was, but it basically gave us the thing like that's going to be pretty expensive. And this was we tried to I didn't buy anything while I was down there. I just enjoyed going into the Smokies, enjoyed going to some of the shows, and It was fun. Getting lost in the
Branson
woods.
of the East.
Getting which is the
Vegas of the Midwest.
The Vegas of the Midwest.
There's a Vegas everywhere you go. It's just how far are you from Vegas or Gatlinburg or Branson?
We got lost in the woods.
Or Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Good one, Garrett.
That was fun. We were
there's bears in them there woods. I don't know if I would
we did not see anything.
Much.
We did not see any. We were kind of worried that we'd see one when we took a wrong turn out of Pigeon Forge and ended up on a one-lane road in the middle of the mountains in the middle of the night.
We went to Gatlinburg some years ago. We met one of my wife's friends from school and her boyfriend at the time. And this guy was, while we were driving up there, they saw a black bear in the backyard of the rental house. And so that guy was on alert all weekend long. It was no fun. He would not drink. He would not get in the hot tub. He was hand on pistol the entire time. And we gave him a hard time. At one point, he left his gun in his truck. And later we heard like a branch snap out. And the woods like, oh, the bear's in the truck. And now it has a gun.
We started this
You have the right to arm bears.
Thank you, Garrett.
Me and my daughter started this whole crazy scenario. We tried to make it as outlandish as we could about these bears attacking us in the middle in the woods, and how they stole the car and were driving the car. And next thing we know, we got I can't remember. We had penguins with machine guns and attack rhinos coming in. And
I always like the guidebooks that say if you encounter a bear, you should lie down. Who wrote these guidebooks? Is this from the bears?
Actually, no. There's actually a whole rhyming thing about what to do with each of the bear.
Oh, okay.
If black, fight back. Brown, lay down. White, bend over and kiss your butt goodbye.
Okay, I heard that one as say goodnight, but yeah, fair enough.
Say goodnight. White, say goodnight.
That's you always read if a shark is bothering you in the ocean, you should punch it in the nose.
Nose.
What if he wasn't gonna bite you? Now he's like, what was that for? You're like, well, I'm supposed to punch you in the nose or you bite me. Like, well, yeah, now all the other sharks are watching.
Speaking of that, this is we'll go back to the topic eventually. There's a Batman comic where it's this one Batman's going to all these alternate universes and chasing his universe's Joker through all of these different universes.
I remember something about that, yeah.
And he finds the one with the 1966 Batman.
Okay.
And he gives him this shark repellent. He gives him his utility. Each one he gets something for each one.
Yeah.
He gives him, and at one point he has to fight the shark, and he has the shark repellent spray from the 1966 Batman
Sure, I mean,
movie.
canonically, Batman has shark repellent on him at all times.
And he uses it to defeat the shark.
We are shopping for a house, and we were in a home a couple weeks ago. This guy is trading very heavily on the thought that people touring his home are not aware of what's on his shelves, because he has a Detective Comics issue number 27 sealed and graded at 9.2 on his shelf. The face you're making is correct. The last time one of those sold, it was graded 6.5 and it sold for $1.7 million. This guy's got a 9.2 just sitting out. I'm like, comic books are very pilferable. I'm just saying.
He doesn't know what he has.
Oh, he surely does. He got it graded. It's not the only comic book he has on display. He has it. It's lit. It's in a display case, but I was astonished to see it out and accessible. It wasn't a locked display case, but fair enough. We're with a realtor. I wouldn't steal it anyway, but yeah. Meanwhile, we're going to make an offer on the house that's $150,000 under ask. That guy's got a $2 million comic book on the shelf. He could afford to take a bath on selling this house. Showers a little cracked.
Gosh.
Anyway, he had an amazing work, but I think of it because of the Batman. There was a hand painted art by. I didn't know the artist, but I Googled their name, and it was a known DC artist, and it's a shark dressed as Batman. And my mom was like, "What's this about?" And I thought, "Oh, well, let me tell you." So I explained the whole thing. And in the next room, there's a signed Kobe Bryant jersey framed up, and it was LeBron James. I was like, I don't know who James is, but that's probably a known figure. And my mom, my 82-year-old mom, probably LeBron James. Oh yeah, of course. and she chided me for not knowing what famous basketball player might be named James. I'm like, can I take you back to the Batman shark? Because I can discuss that all day long.
Yeah.
Also, he's got a hand drawn picture of Lilandra from the Starjammers on framed up in his X-Men room.
What? Drawn by who?
I don't know, but it looked. This guy's clearly spending some money to have art made. He had a whole wall of it.
Because I was going to say,
anyway,
if it's during the Chris Claremont, Jim Lee era, that would be like worth a crap ton of money.
I'm sure all of the art and comic books were centered around a 3-foot tall Sentinel statue in mid battle with like Hot Toys, whatever figure arts level. X-Men fighting them and effects and everything. It's a really beautiful house. I want to buy it. My wife's like, the toys and the comics, they don't come with it. It's fine. It's fine. It's just this is where Palpatine will live.
Okay. We're
not talking about Palpatine this week.
So let's move on because I want to get into Asajj Ventress.
Yes,
I'm sure there are a lot of Star Wars fans who'd like to do that as well.
Hey.
Oh,
all right,
sorry.
I did that to myself.
Phrasing.
Yeah, we're talking Asajj Ventress.
I thought we weren't doing phrasing anymore.
We're bringing it back.
Space phrasing.
Stop trying to make space phrasing happening. It's not going to happen. We're
talking Asajj Ventress, who is probably by far one of my favorite characters out of the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Just because
Asajj
she's got such a rich backstory.
Yeah. She does, and we've gone into a little bit before, but I want to touch on again. Asajj Ventress canonically is one of the best lightsaber duelists in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And I say this because of the number of times that she has engaged in lightsaber duels, 2 versus 1 against Kenobi and Skywalker. And how many times does she die in those fights? 0. How many times has she captured less than all of them? And that's better than even Dooku did. Dooku only survived 2 battles with those 2 particular Jedi, and she takes them on and again and again. And now part of that is metatextually, she is a primary villain of a television series. She can't die or be captured immediately. She has to get away. But nonetheless, Asajj Ventress duels and survives/escapes Kenobi and Skywalker dozens of times over the course of that series. And I think it speaks well of her abilities as a fighter.
I have to say, I love the banter. Or anytime it's her and Obi-Wan fighting, I love the banter between the two.
Oh, I know, it makes me feel kind of funny. I'm like, Obi-Wan, keep it in your it in your robes.
I know, right? I know. It's there's just, and you're thinking to yourself, this is a kid's show. Of course, you think that a lot with a lot of stuff that happened in the Clone Wars. You're like,
but given the fact that it aired on prime time, it's not right. I mean, it's a kid's show, but it's not a kid's show.
I know. I mean,
we're talking accent, about that purring voice. Obi-Wan's like.
Anytime Obi-Wan was in a room with Satine Kryze, I mean, there's tons of innuendo flying back and forth.
Yeah,
but it's like my favorite rendition as far as the art is concerned. Like, obviously, they went with a particular style for the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
but in doing so, what they ended up doing is they ended up generating this very harsh looking character.
Mm-hmm.
And like after a while, the design kind of grows on you. But like, I have the comics that Dark Horse put out for the Clone Wars, and Asajj Ventress shows up frequently in the first few volumes of that. And like, there's something absolutely captivating and mesmerizing about her. Yeah. And this is some of the art from one of those books.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the design because like, normally a bald woman, not attractive.
No,
but there's something very alluring about her. Yeah. There's something very dangerous about her. And it comes off as a very captivating design.
I will say this, and maybe this is just my own bias of not really being a fan of the series, but I don't like the design they had for Ventress in the micro series.
Really?
It seemed very angular and very like
Evil
I don't
praying
know.
mantis.
Yeah, it didn't seem very like it wasn't very, and maybe that was the point. It wasn't supposed to be very
And then
attractive.
they took that and they ran with it for the 3D version.
Yeah,
Evil,
To some
sharper
extent.
praying mantis.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just not I'm not personally not a fan of the micro series to begin with.
Why not?
I just don't like I just personally don't like the design.
Garrett, you sound ready to fight there. Why not?
Why? Because I love the micro series. I thought it was really well done.
I don't know. I think a lot of it is I just don't like the animation design. That's just not my cup of tea.
Mm.
And I thought it was just, I don't know, maybe too action forward. Like it was just too, like there wasn't a lot of story. It was just bam 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 action, which I understand. When you're doing, did we lose Brian?
Oh, hello. We lost.
Did we lose Garrett? Anyway, I guess I ticked off Garrett by telling him I don't like the.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
Hold on, he sent a private message. Stepping back for a moment. Got to use okay. Never mind. Anyway, yeah. So, Asajj Ventress, Brian. What are some of your thoughts?
Okay, so first off, for those who are unfamiliar with her work, Asajj Ventress began her career as a Jedi Padawan. Her master was killed by pirates on a distant planet, and she was stranded there without means of escape. She ended up being enslaved by the pirates, ended up taking over the pirates, and then from that point got the attention of Count Dooku and came to train under him. After, shall we say, parting ways with Count Dooku, she returned to her home on Dathomir and trained as a Night Sister. They made it was basically a waiver.
Let's just be clear. When you say parting ways, he basically tried to kill her.
There is no other way to part ways with a Sith.
Yeah.
You should see him try to sign a check at Chili's. It's embarrassing. But she returned to Dathomir and trained as a Night Sister. They made some exceptions to her training and basically let her take the coming of age test as an adult. But be that as it may, Asajj Ventress, canonically, I believe, is the only Force user character that we've ever seen who trained in all three traditions and trained quite a ways. I mean, she was a successful Padawan, quite gifted. After the films, we do see her featured heavily. She's essentially the protagonist of Dark Disciple by Christy Golden and Katie Lucas, which is a book made of unproduced episodes of the Clone Wars, wherein we see her team up with Jedi Quinlan Vos to try to infiltrate and assassinate Count Dooku. It is unsuccessful, but it is an amazing and heartbreaking story, which ends with her being buried on Dathomir by Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's a beautiful story. I would do it no justice. I'm just going to tell you got to go read it.
Yeah.
I think that she's a fascinating character. Their debate has always raged as to whether or not she counts as a Sith.
I think if we were asked a Sith, they'd say no.
True.
Because she never took the Darth title. You have the rule of two, so for her to have been a Sith, that would have.
I maintain that the rule of two was broken by absolutely everybody who followed Bane, including Bane. But yes,
this is true.
The only to counter that argument, and I agree, she's never been referred to as a Darth. Palpatine was well aware of her, so it's not like she was being trained as an apprentice in secret. So, on the other hand, I think we could count her as a Sith assassin, if not a Sith apprentice.
Oh yeah,
and only because in Dark Disciple, Yoda refers to her as the Sith more than once, as does the omnipotent narrator of the book, which is kind of hard to get around. But be that as it may, her work is amazing. She is the only person who sides with Ahsoka Tano and helps her clear her name when Ahsoka's excommunicated from the Jedi. She's a villain, but she's a villain with depth, with emotion behind the reasons that she turned to the dark side are valid, I think. And the way that she approaches absolutely everything is with no less ferocity than a Sith apprentice would.
I think that's what's so captivating about watching her journey through the Clone Wars, especially when you get to the final season, where she goes from being, definitely a villain, definitely to almost anti-hero. Like she has this arc where, especially when she shows up in Bad Batch, and she's no longer, she's helping them. She's no longer the villain. There's definitely still an edge to her, but she's
she's an interesting villain because while she uses the dark side, her loyalty is to herself.
Yeah.
She's not like evil for evil's sake. She's not one of these strike me and I'll, even if I die, I still win kind of the bad guy loophole that Palpatine always pulls out. She's in it to win it for herself. And she's a Sith apprentice because that's the best way that she can gain power is by learning it from Count Dooku. And clearly Count Dooku has trained her well in lightsaber dueling.
The other factor to that is that it becoming a Sith apprentice was kind of a natural progression for her of returning to the roots that she initially had. I mean, she goes from being a Jedi Padawan to being abandoned to everything else that happens in between. So taking those skills that she developed when she was younger and aligning them with someone who is willing to teach her the things that she needed to learn to continue to survive, to continue to thrive in a way that made sense to her, it's a natural progression for her story wise.
Yeah.
There's an interesting moment in Dark Disciple where we see the cruelty of Count Dooku. He sees the relationship that is built between Asajj and Quinlan Vos. And he knows that this relationship is omitting a key detail, which is that Ventress killed Quinlan Vos's master. And at one point, while Quinlan is imprisoned by Count Dooku leaves him Asajj's lightsaber, knowing that Quinlan Vos has the force ability of psychometry and that he can touch an item and learn its history. And Quinlan resists the temptation for almost 10 minutes, it seems like, and then he picks up Asajj's lightsaber and learns instantly that it is the weapon that killed his master. And that crushes Quinlan, crushes Asajj when she finds out he knows. It ruins everything. And all Dooku had to do is just set it down in the cell. It's a great moment. Asajj, at the beginning of Dark Disciple, we see her in the middle of her very successful career as a bounty hunter. When you've been trained as a Jedi and a Sith and you still have a lightsaber, you're very effective at whatever job you do, but bounty hunting in particular, she seems quite good at. There is even a scene where we see she has outwitted Boba Fett. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Boba Fett, a character who is supposedly good for doing something, and surprisingly,
Word of God says he's good at everything, so let's give him credit for it. In this particular instance, Fett and Asajj are working on a job to return a stolen asset to a crime warlord. And it is determined somewhat late in the mission that the asset is an escaped princess who was given to this crime warlord for nefarious purposes that remain vaguely described as it is from a television show. But be that as it may, when that warlord opens the case that is supposed to contain his recaptured slave, what's inside is Boba Fett. And Asajj Ventress has freed the girl.
Oh yeah, I know which episode you're talking about because Boba was still a kid at the time, working alongside what's her name?
Antenna Head.
Yes, Antenna Head. Who also had been Aura Singh.
Thank you.
Yeah, who also had spent time as a Jedi apprentice.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought she was just a Jedi hunter.
No, I was reading something and it popped up. Let me see here. I know we're getting off track here, but she is listed as being a force-sensitive female who left the Jedi Order to take up the life of a bounty hunter. She was originally from Nar Shaddaa, the Smuggler's Moon, and the antenna is part of a biocomputer that's plugged into her brain. And
okay.
Yeah. And so her whole thing is like she has the skills and stuff like that, but she decided to use them for the wrong reasons.
Isn't that what always happens?
Years ago, I met an amazing cosplayer who does it, an Asajj Ventress, beyond all possible expectations, named Miss Sinister. I'm looking for a good image of her. She's branched off into a lot of comic book related ones. But anyway, I think it's a great character. It's an interesting, as you said, it's a lot of cosplayers won't do her because it requires. Oh, here's a good one. It requires a bald head.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there are ways around that. I mean, bald caps for one. I mean, I know plenty of cosplayers who'll do that. And then of course you get the diehards who will actually actively do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes, she is bald in this.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, she's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
So here's a question: who do you think would be a good actress to if they were to bring her into live action?
If we were to bring her into live action, I would say even now Charlize Theron, because
I mean Anya Taylor-Joy, right? Why not?
No, not Anya Taylor-Joy.
Just kidding. She's in everything.
Honestly, I think just because we've seen her do bald before and she can do it is Karen Gillan. Is that right?
Karen Gillan.
Sure, well, Karen Gillan.
I think she could pull it off. I think she's got the right body type, and we've seen her do, bald cap before and pull it off.
Well,
if we're gonna see Asajj Ventress live action,
Nebula.
Yeah, as Nebula. Yeah.
If we're going to see Asajj live action, I gotta ask: can we keep the accent from Clone Wars? Because I really think that sort of,
think that's kind
European.
Yeah, well, and Nika Futterman did a really good job, because there some elements of her accent there's definitely an Eastern European tone to it, but then there are some words that she pronounced where you had kind of like a Spanish inflection in there. And so, which is why my initial thought was Charlize Theron, because one, she's done the whole bald thing from Mad Max Fury Road, and she's also a very physical actress. I mean, they just put out the Old Guard Part 2 on Netflix this last week, and I don't know if you guys have seen the first one, but the first one, she's pretty awesome in that one. Like, she's good at doing action sequences. So I think that if I was to cast her, she would be my first pick. But Karen Gillan, I think, would be a good second choice.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized where I've heard Nika Futterman's voice before. She's Cuckoo Loca on the Mickey Mouse Funhouse. I got a 7-year-old. What can I say?
Hey, I've got an 8-year-old. I get it.
Mickey Mouse Funhouse theme song done by They Might Be Giants. Thank you very much.
Really? That's They Might Be Giants?
I thought it was cool. And also, by the way, Spidey and His Amazing Friends, that theme song is done by Fall Out Boy.
Yeah. Well, that one is for sure, because I mean you can hear it in their style.
Yep. You can if you listen to Mickey Mouse Fun, you'll hear it again. Come inside, it's fun inside.
Wow.
Yeah, you'll hear it. I did think it was cool. While Asajj is a bounty hunter, she is using her yellow lightsaber. I'm not sure what happened to her red ones. I presume that she buried them, left them behind, had them taken, whatever. Yeah. She's using a yellow lightsaber she got in the black market, which is something I've always said. If you want to conceal your dark side tendencies, quit with the red lightsabers and the spiky black outfits. And I saw at Celebration 19, I saw a really cool cosplayer cosplaying as Asajj from Dark Disciple. Short, kind of brush cut blonde hair and a yellow lightsaber, and just sort of like a teal, blue, purple combo. It was really nice looking. And because I mean, by that point, Asajj owes nothing to anybody. Why would she? A red lightsaber would only hold her up as to anybody who knew as a villain, and to anybody who doesn't, it makes no difference. So why not use the yellow one?
Now in I can't remember, in Bad Batch she has a yellow lightsaber, right?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, but it's only towards the end when she comes in what was that, season 4, season 3?
The last
I get
season.
three more
she shows
seasons.
up in the last season.
Well, you don't care for Bad Batch?
I like it, but it's a bit of a slog just because it's not my genre.
Gotcha.
It's very well done. It's a great show. It's just I'm not so much of a
for at least one episode.
Yes, I've seen those clips. The algorithm knows me pretty well. If there's a clip of Palpatine out there, it crops up fairly early in the day for me. It's so charming when a friend or family will share like a Palpatine meme or a clip of Palpatine. I'm like, yes, that's adorable. I saw that 2 weeks ago. But I just say, oh, thanks, that's awesome.
I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be interesting just to see your search history and see how many times Palpatine shows up.
I have a Google alert. I don't search it anymore.
If you just you just push P on your computer and just Palpatine to show all kinds of.
Well, and see, there's something interesting though about Asajj Ventress that I think gets.
The second response is Palpatine meme generator. I do use that one a lot.
There's something interesting about Asajj Ventress that from a character design, like for one, I was looking at the etymology because that's one. When I was a writer, that's one of the things I like to do a lot. Is I look for etymology, especially for characters when I'm looking at naming them. But what's kind of neat is that in the creation of the character, it says that her first name Asajj is an homage to the character Asajj from Akira Kurosawa's film Throne of Blood, which I thought that was a really neat idea. Because again, that's Star Wars, drawing from Japanese filmmaking. But then the surname Ventress was inspired by the town of Ventress, Louisiana. And so it ties back to the whole voodoo element that we see kind of getting tied in with the Night Sisters. Yeah. But Ventress also has another level to it in that it comes from the Latin word venator, which means hunter. And she spends a lot of time operating in that mindset of being a hunter.
Yeah.
But what's the other thing that's interesting is that in the Dark Horse Clone Wars comics, she was referred to as a Ratattaki. But then that origin, because the Ratattakis all have that kind of that gray pallor skin with bald heads, female, male, doesn't matter, and they have the various tattoos. But then in the Clone Wars, they change it because you look at Asajj Ventress's official entry on Wikipedia, and it says that she is from Dathomir, that she's a Zabrak.
A female Zabrak.
Yeah, so she's given one origin in the Dark Horse books, and then instead of sticking with that, they completely upended it and changed her entire origin. As far as like what species she is and what planet she's from.
Can we lampshade that by saying that she was lying? Her history is swathed in mystery. I don't know.
I see on
who was Darth Maul's mom? We go back and forth.
But like it is like it was put out in comics. It was listed. That's what she was.
Ratattaki. What is that?
Yeah, it's I'll show you.
The squirrel that dwells in Yggdrasil, the world tree. That's Ratattaki, by the way. Mythology nerds really yelling at me.
And not to be confused with a particular Pokemon.
Yeah. Well,
My kid
I
likes
mean,
cats, so all I know is Sprigatito and Umbreon.
well, the other thing that makes it her backstory so confusing is, as you've said, Brian, several times now, with the Dark Disciple story, is she dies at the end of the Dark Disciple story, which canonically takes place during the Clone Wars, but yet she shows up in Bad Batch, which is
Right, but
after the Clone Wars.
Is Dark Disciple part of the new Disney canon?
Yes,
It technically is. Yeah, it
it was
happened
one of the
during.
first novels that came out.
Interesting.
So yeah, but yeah, she shows up in Bad Batch. So either she faked her death.
Here we go. Asajj Ventress was formerly Ratattaki, preceding a retcon in the Clone Wars that altered her birthplace to Dathomir and her species, Dathomirian.
Here we go. Dark Disciple was released July 2015.
Okay, so 5 months before the any of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, but it is part of it is part of the Disney canon.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, because here's the backstory on this. It's Ratattaki had no major contact with the Republic until a Jedi Knight, Kyneric, crash landed. The Jedi soon found a young Dathomirian Ventress who had been living among the Rat. Okay. Okay. Discovering her incredible potential in the Force, together they united armies and brought peace to the planet until Kirska and some other warlords of the planet united to slay them, leading to the death of Narek and causing Ventress to capture or kill their foes in a rage.
I had to check this, and I have no concept of where we are now on this one, but according to StarWarsFandom.com, she was taken from her family as an infant on Dathomir and enslaved by pirates on the war-torn world of Ratattaki. So, is she Ratattaki because she lived there? Like, is it a Mandalorian thing? Like, I don't know, but
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I am a nitpicker in that I am a Star Wars fan overall, but that kind of thing, like, she's a great character. I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, let's have a clear origin story. Let's not let's not mess it up and get it all muddy, because that gets confusing.
I'm willing to suspend belief quite a bit, but at some point, we like the universe to obey its own laws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you guys read the Tales of Luke Skywalker anthology book? Came out a couple years ago.
No.
So this is, just in case explaining Disney canon and EU canon was too easy for you, this is a canon novel about characters who are in canon telling stories that are not necessarily canonically true. Yes. So one of them is a story told by a sand flea that was living in Luke Skywalker's hair, steering him Ratatouille style throughout all of his adventures. And it's the story of this sentient sand flea taking credit for Luke's unnatural reflexes and abilities and everything. So that's not canonically true, but that is the story the sand flea tells. But my favorite one of those is there is in a bar, we meet someone who is a Death Star truther. Hear me out. This guy is overheard to be saying that there was no such thing as the Death Star, and it was just made up by the Empire as propaganda to intimidate people, and that Alderaan was destroyed it was a natural disaster, and the Empire just took credit for it. And then the rebels saying that they blew up the Death Star was sort of counter propaganda, and the Empire can't argue against it by saying, "Oh, it didn't really exist. Of course, you didn't blow it up." But his evidence of this, he says, you watch some of the holos, and when the Death Star blows up, it's just a cloud of fire. But then other holos, it blows up, and there's a ring that goes out from it. Explain that. How is the same explosion look different twice?
So this is the equivalent of the moon landing was faked in a studio in Hollywood.
Yes, but he's describing the two different explosions from the original and special edition versions. So this is a in-canon character who has seen both versions of the film. And that makes my head hurt, and I want to share it with you guys.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
I like that sort of thing.
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
My wife and I are currently watching a television show that shall remain nameless on HBO Max, wherein we've just learned that a character's father died, and it was a very touching, heart-wrenching episode, except for the fact that this guy was referred to as being dead 2 seasons ago. So, okay. Fair enough. But, so yeah, Ratattaki, I had forgotten about the Ratattaki thing, but I thought I remembered there was some sort of connection in there. I think that Asajj is, to kind of go back to what I was saying, I think Asajj is one of the more interesting villains because, as I say, she's not just in it for the evils. She's not here to torture people, to hear them scream. She's not using the dark side to terrorize people before she kills them, to charge up her own power like Bane does. She's just that's just the most effective tool for her to be successful. And it doesn't mean that she's incapable of love. It doesn't mean that she's incapable of compassion. She helps Ahsoka Tano for no reason other than she cannot stand the injustice of Ahsoka being falsely accused and punished for it. And that's more than any Jedi in the Order does. And I think that's a really telling moment in the Ahsoka story as well as Asajj. I love that they cross over. They are essentially reflections of one another. They both dual wield lightsabers. They both are trained by a famously good duelist.
They're both abandoned by the Order in some way.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, they're both abandoned by their own order, and they both strike out on their own and are very successful thereafter. Oh, I'd love to see Ahsoka Tano the bounty hunter. That would be cool.
Yes.
But no, while Asajj is not evil for evil's sake, Ahsoka is good for good's sake. So she would not be a bounty hunter to any extent.
No, she probably would not.
Did I lean too heavily on the disdain in my tone there? It's fine. I like Ahsoka.
What disdain?
Ahsoka's my second favorite light side Force user, and there are only 2 that I like, so that's a high praise. Kenobi, sense. Number 1, by the way.
That makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense.
All right. This has been a good conversation. I've enjoyed this.
I think so.
I was looking forward to this one. I love this character.
Yeah. What are we talking about next week, Mr. Garrett?
We are talking about the message or messages of Star Wars.
Indeed. And we will be hopefully joined by a special guest next week. I put out some feelers for people to join. And Amanda Curtis, who's been on the show before, will be joining us to talk a little bit about the messages of Star Wars. So look forward to having her back on the show and talking not just the messages, but some of the morals and what Star Wars can teach us from a moral point of view. So look forward to that. Should be fun.
Yep.
All right. Well, Brian, why don't you start us off and tell us where the people can find you at?
Absolutely, folks. Come see me over. I post as Darth Carosis on the Sith Library and Archives, a lovingly curated collection, of dark side related stuff. If it's on the bad guy's side, you'll find it there. We make jokes, we have conversations, we share art, we share literature. Come by and see us. Darth Carosis and several of my other partners out there. We try to put a good work in. 50,000 followers, no big deal.
All right. Garrett, what about you?
Well, you guys can find me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing. On those platforms, I talk about my show The Right Way on YouTube, as well as posting about War of the Stars. I also have a show called The Right Way on YouTube that is focused on creative writing tips, author interviews, and book recommendations. In fact, this coming Saturday, I have a new episode. It is a live stream. We are going to be talking about how to pick the genre that you want to write in, as well as how to find or develop a writing prompt that gets your creative juices flowing. I also am part of another show on Feast of Fandoms called Snackame, and we talk anime and we eat snacks. And that episode is dropping this coming Friday.
All right. As for us right here at War of the Stars, if you want to get a hold of us, there's a few ways to do so. First, you can email us. The email is warofthestars1@gmail.com. We are also on Instagram, X, and YouTube at War of the Stars 77. You can check us out there. You can get a hold of us there. We are, of course, as Brian said, a proud member of Feast of Fandoms. Check out all the shows on Feast of Fandoms. A lot of good shows, a lot of great people there. Fun times. Check us out. Let's see what else. If you want to support the show, Ko-fi.com/War of the Stars, or go to our Spreadshirt shop, spreadshirt.com/shop/war-of-stars. That's a lot. I think that about wraps it up. As always, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Peace.